Alright, the intent of the next few minutes is to give you an overview of some different ways that you can integrate the epistemological orientations, or the ways of knowing. And so I'm going to go through kind of some different ways of doing this. I'm going to use my cursor to kind of follow through, so pay close attention not only to what I'm saying but also to what's going on the screen. So here's a method or a model that would look at kind of a circular approach. So you might have science here, and experience and intuition, one leading to the next. It might be starting in one place and continuing, or it might be just kind of a cyclical process. So this is kind of more a process type way of knowing. This one is where one builds on the other. And so this pinnacle here is where your practice would be, and this down here is where a lot of the foundational knowledge. So you may, while practicing up here, you may draw from this foundation of experience down here, or science, or reason, and then so on and so forth. So this is kind of one that would be hierarchical. So if you start in one place and then build up to the final decision that you're making, that would follow this type of a pattern. Here's another one where you kind of have this big hopper, and no, this is not a martini. This is a big hopper where you're going to kind of put all of the different ways of knowing in, and effective practice is going to come out. This doesn't mean that it's haphazard. What it means is that in different times, different ones are going to have more of an influence, but also that there is some kind of systematic way that they come out. You can't use this one and say, I'm just going to throw everything in and whatever comes out is effective practice. It has to be articulated how and in what ways they're going to systematize what does come out in the effective practice. This is another one where there might be certain situations where you're going to draw specifically from experience, or from research, or from rationale and reason. But there's also some times when they're going to overlap, or sometimes when some of them are going to overlap and others. And so this one, you just have to describe how and when these things overlap one another, and when you're going to draw on one and when you're going to draw on another. Here's another interesting one, and this one's an important one if you're the type of person who's going to want to say, okay, in this situation, do I have the scientific knowledge I need, or the experience that I need to draw from? And then can I go to intuition or to reason based on my experience? Or if it's science, can I go then to authority figures? And so on and so forth. And so you're going to use the different ways of knowing as kind of a systematic questioning process. The last one we're going to look at is kind of how one way of knowing influences another, and so on and so forth. And so in this kind of model, the cogs will turn one another, and they kind of influence, as they all turn together, they have an impact on one another. And so as you think about each one of these, and you think about which one fits you best, it has to be something that is applicable and useful to you. And so it isn't that I'm looking for a specific answer. On the final exam, I'm going to be asking which model you're going to use to integrate the different ways of knowing. I expect you to decide which one of these it is, but there isn't a right answer. It's whatever seems to fit for you. And so you have to look at yourself and say, what way do I utilize the different ways of knowing, so I make sure that I do it in a systematic and an intentional way, and not in a haphazard or an accidental way.